Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Isabel and today we are at my desk. And you know what that means? It means that we're not having a book review today. We are having, well, bookish content, if we may say. We're starting a back to school series today. But if you don't like today's video, come back tomorrow and the day after that, you might find a video for your liking to help you out with the back to school season. So if you don't know, I studied in Mexico up until high school. I went to community college then in the US. I transferred to UC Berkeley afterwards. I graduated with honors and now I'm doing a master's in Switzerland. Yeah, that's a mouthful. So when doing all of this, I really didn't have anyone to guide me through any of this process, no one that had done the same thing as I did. So I was pretty much winging it and learning as I went, which is rewarding, but you don't have to because I'm here for you. The thing is, even though I didn't have anyone in my personal life that I could relate to or that could give me some guidance, I did have Hermione Granger and Rory Gilmore to look up to. And Matilda, of course. But mostly these two figures that when you think about them, you think about studious girls that are always reading, they're super smart, they're super pretty, they're super powerful. At least Rory was, until they ruined her character. But moving on. Rory and Hermione were always there for me and I learned a thing or two from them. But especially the thing that they have in common, that is the core of it, I think, is that they love learning. They don't love studying, they love learning. And that's a very important difference that we need to make since the beginning. Because studying is what you do to learn something, if that makes sense. So you might not love the process, which, if I am honest, I do love the process, but you might not. Or it might be overwhelming. I am not naive and I'm not gonna think, because that doesn't happen to me either, that you're gonna love the whole thing for years and years and years, thinking that if you're just coming into university and the next 4, 5, 6 years of your life, you're just going to love every single moment. Probably not, because it is intense mental work. You're going through a lot of changes if you're moving away, and it's going to feel like you don't want to do this anymore. And that's something that you need to evaluate first. Is it that you don't want to do this anymore, that you got the wrong major, or is it that you are lacking the equipment to deal with what is coming for you? And that is nothing to be embarrassed of, because if we think about it as I'm lacking some skills, some perspective, I'm in a new environment, it means that you can grow and you can achieve this, and that there is still hope there. If you're just thinking that I am wrong for this major, I'm too stupid, everyone is better than me, that is not anything that you can learn from or that you can work on. Now you're probably wondering, how do I love learning if that's not something that you already do? I think that the secret for not being miserable in university is love learning. But how do you get there? The thing about learning is that it really isn't quantifiable, even though we want to make it like that. We want to do it with grades and we want to do it with progress and with degrees. But if you are learning, no one might even notice except you. It doesn't have to always be in the classroom, and it doesn't always have to be in the same way as others do. Learning gives us this idea that we are capable, that we have a purpose, that we have skills, that we are powerful and we can achieve whatever we challenge ourselves. And at the end of the day, as an English major, as a person that got the opportunity to go into university, I always felt like I had the great privilege to just go there and sit down and talk about books, and I had the privilege of that being my career path. So if you start thinking about it and you start thinking about all the money that you have been investing in, all the time, and why you chose this major particularly since the beginning, you might think, well, maybe it's just this class that I don't like, or this topic I don't like, or maybe the professor or your state of mind. And in the case that you do hate what you're studying, well, you didn't marry it and you can always change your path, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, because you learn even there in the process that you learn that you were in the wrong place, and now you know more about yourself and what your interests are. Active participation is everything. Chances are that you are not with a professor that is discouraging your participation. They probably really want that in. This is a very common mistake that a lot of students do. They're making the class more difficult and boring for them, because just sitting there for hours and hours, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, is just going to make learning very passive, tedious, boring, And for example, I cannot just stay there and listen to someone talk about something for 2 hours and then leave. Like, of course, I have questions and I have comments, and I understand that personality wise, many people might be introverts and they might not want to speak up, or you might have classmates who are really unsupportive. I understand that, but at least try to make and engage with the material with a professor in office hours, through an email, with a friend. Not the professor doesn't even have to know if you don't want them to know, even though it would only benefit you, but just make sure that you are actually participating in having your brain exercising the whole time, because that is going to unlock your critical thinking skills since the moment that you are being taught. As you move on from each year and each semester, you're going to have to be more critical about the information that you receive. And every time you're going to receive less information, you're going to be expected to come already prepared, and you should know how to look for good information, for good points, and develop critical thinking skills on your own. Next is to find interesting topics in and out of your studies. Story time. As an English major, I've always loved reading, and that has always been my main hobby. However, when you're an English major, you have a lot of things to read, your eyes hurt, and the last thing you want to do is read something else. Now, I have incorporated fun, easy reads during the semester for me, but when I was deep into my third year, which was when I transferred to Berkeley, I couldn't stand reading anything beyond what I was already reading. It was too much and it wasn't doing it for me. Reading usually comforts me and it brings me a lot of peace, but then it was just stressing me out even more because I felt like I only had to read my schoolwork and only academic things, which is the totally wrong mindset. But I'm digressing. Going back to this point. Find interesting things from the topic that you are studying, but also interesting hobbies that you like. For example, I had this modernism class, and I'm not a big fan of modernism. So I was a bit, after the first month of school started, I could feel like I was dreading going to this class, which is something that never happens to me. And I was dreading doing the readings. So what I did is just that I went into JSTOR and I looked into essays about modernism, and I just basic Google search of what authors are modernists. And even though there were a few that we weren't looking at in my particular class, I looked them up and I like that writing better. Or sometimes you can connect it to topics that you like. If you want to talk about race, if you want to talk about gender, if you want to talk about economics and class, whatever that you already know that you like, you can bring it into your class. Or you can even ask the professor, hey, I'm not feeling this class, or I am, I don't know, a bit hesitant. Do you have further secondary literature that I can check? Recommendations. These professors are usually experts in their topic and they're passionate about their topic. So sometimes they just contagion you with their enthusiasm, and they are very good for including it into their love, and they just recommend you a lot of things. Sometimes they even have given me books of the whole topic because I went to ask a little question. So that is something that I recommend, but as well, just find other hobbies to occupy your mind. For example, we see Hermione learning how to knit, which wasn't what she was expecting because she was just trying it to achieve her other purpose. But then she constantly is doing it, and it's something that is helping her out to not be studying the whole time. Still talking about reading is something that Hermione and Rory are known for. They're always talking about books, they're always talking about reading, and we at screen we see them loving this so much. This is something I relate to as well growing up. But if you're not a big reader and you're watching this video, I have a lot of book recommendations in this channel for whatever you might be interested in. You can also open your mind to what reading can give you. And yes, learning, knowledge, that's whatever. But reading also brings you comfort and it brings you a sense of control. For example, Hermione works hard and is always reading because coming from muggles, she needs to prove herself at this school and she wants to be the best. For example, Rory, who lives a very sheltered life, her valedictorian speech, she says that she traveled to many other places and many worlds through reading, because for those of us who grew up in a small town and thought that we would never have the chance to experience a lot of things, reading really opened up the world for us. And it opens up the world to things that you have no idea about, and I don't know, starts your hunger and curiosity for more. And like what happened to Matilda, books show us that we are not alone, and that's a very specific and kind message to get from them, because sometimes you're reading the words of someone that live in a total different life and time at you, but they're just conveying strong human feelings, and it makes you more empathetical. It makes you aware of bigger issues and a big picture, and combining that with your schoolwork is going to show you that the world is not your school and the world is not your town. Next point is organization. And yes, Hermione had a time turner. We know that. That's a bit of cheating because we don't get to have one. But it is very important because in every other Harry Potter book, when she doesn't have one, we see her keeping on top of everything and then doing Harry's and Ron's assignments or completing them and defeating the bad guys. Hermione has time for everything and has time to pursue her passions and interests, and you wonder, how does she does it all? Well, she must be a very organized person. Like Rory, that has a very normal and balanced life, which she has interactions with friends, a boyfriend, and her mom, and she enjoys watching movies and listen to music. And even though she's a top student, she has time for all of this. And how do we achieve this? Well, first of all, we need to change your mindset about organization, because a lot of people fail at it because they feel restrained. They feel overwhelmed for all the things they have to do, or they do something that looks pretty but is not functional at all, and they just give up. I really don't care if you use a planner, a bullet journal, a piece of paper, Notion, Google Calendar. I use all of them. And the important thing is that organization is not to restrict yourself, but it's actually to free yourself a bit. Because if everything is taken care of and everything has a specific time, then you get to see a more realistic view of your 24 hours of the day, of your week, and then you can plan to do those passions. To, okay, on Sunday morning, I'm gonna plan and I'm gonna do this Pilates workout, and it's in my planner and I'm gonna do it. Because if you do it without having this big perspective, at least for me, I feel like I should be doing something else. But if it's already planned and it's okay, and I have enough time to do everything else and also take care of myself, then I actually get to enjoy my activity instead of feeling guilty that I should be using that time in a more productive way, if that makes sense to you. Maybe it's just me that I'm a control freak, but I mean, Hermione and Rory definitely are too. Next is to not be afraid to challenges and to give your best work at every single assignment. I know many people who always complain that, oh, I'm so bad at writing, or I'm bad at public speaking or doing presentations, but they leave it at the last minute because they know that they're bad at it, so they just push it aside until they don't have any more time and they turn in a mediocre or not their best work, and then that just confirms their previous belief that they're just bad at it. And that is very human, that is fine. But if you know that something is challenging but it is important and it's a challenge, you should do your best work, always your best work, because then you're going to see how you're actually improving. But if you're never giving yourself enough time to produce something that you're proud of, that is just going to affect your mental health as well, and it's going to affect your self-esteem. You're going to think that you are a bad student, but you're not a bad student. You're just not giving yourself a fair chance. Now, hard work over motivation any day. Hermione and Rory are hard work. They are not just brilliant or the type of people that don't study or don't do anything and they get magically good grades and they magically get into good schools. We really see them putting the works, prioritizing their schoolwork, prioritizing learning, and getting a sense of pride from it because they are their own accomplishments. Especially if you just come into university and you're coming out on your own, you're becoming an adult. These academic successes are the first ones that you are receiving in your own adult time. Then other successes are going to come, other achievements. Working hard in school is going to teach you how to work hard in life. And not just for your job, but for the things that you want, for buying your first car, for saving for a good place to live, for furnishing your home. All of these things are going to teach you resilience, and they're going to teach you discipline. And personally, when someone comes at me and they just go, oh, you're so smart, I don't know how you say those things in class, or how do you come up with these ideas, or how do you do X, Y, and Z, I always recoil at it, because I'm like, I'm not so smart, I'm not that smart. Because it sounds like it comes easy to me, or that is not something that I actively work on, because I don't think I'm that smart. I just discipline. I work hard, I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy learning. But I also know that if I want to see results, I need to do what I have to do, you know? I'm a high achiever and I am a hard worker. And that's why those things correlate, and that's why it looks easy, but it really is not easy. Do not make yourself little just to fit in with everyone else. Be proud of your achievements. Often people might feel intimidated if you're a high achiever, if you're unlocking your Hermione Granger, your Rory Gilmore, and they're going to try to make you stop. They're going to be like, relax, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to do all the readings. You don't have to put this much work into everything. The professor is not going to grade that. So at my master's, I have a lot of pass, no pass classes, for example. I could comfortably not do all the readings, and I could comfortably just pass, because there's no difference between me that passes because I did everything and someone else that barely passes, because at the end the transcript is going to say pass. The thing is, I paid for this class and I am investing my time for this class, and I am in this class because I committed to this class. So I'm going to do what I have to do to get all of it, to understand everything, to learn everything, because that's what I'm there for. It's a mindset that you have to separate from other people, because they might not share it, and that is totally fine. And you don't have to share it to be friends or anything, but sometimes it is easier to be like, oh yeah, I hate school, I didn't do the reading, I don't know why we always inclined to do that. Yes, I did the reading, no, I don't hate school. And Hermione and Rory are never like that. So it's something that I learned from them specifically. They never lower themselves down to fit in with other people. They're proudly aware of their achievements, and they're proudly aware that they're not like most students. And that is great. And that is something that I feel helps you out a lot in the long run. I think I already said this in one way or another, but always bring a book. That is something that Rory and Hermione have in common. And I mentioned this before, but of course I am aware of our times, and it was easier for Hermione and for Rory to always bring a book than for us, because we want to watch TikToks for 15 minutes straight in between classes, and sometimes it's fine. But I found that when I use those 15 minutes to just read a romance or something that I like to read, it brings me a lot of peace. It brings my brain a rest. It's not the same effect that I have when I'm scrolling social media, because it's not mindless and it's not numbing, and it actually has a very positive effect in me. It might not have a positive effect on you, and the book that you might bring with you is your schoolwork. But just think about it. If it's something that you have to read for school, it's something less, and it's freeing you some time in the evening. Finally, we learn from them that grades are not everything. Hermione doesn't hesitate to question professors, and she doesn't hesitate to question the syllabus. She leaves school to go help Harry. She's not blinded by school, because she has developed her critical thinking skills, and she always prioritizes what is right. Rory has to face that not everything is grades, that for her to be accepted in a university, she has to be a rounded individual, not just a machine that takes all these courses and has the perfect score, but they want to see the real her, what she's actually interested in. That realization is something that later on we see her have to deal with, but it's something that we can take into our own personal view starting this new school year, and thinking at the end of the day, the grades are not what is important. The important is what you learn and what you take and what you bring to school. But hopefully these have been useful for you. I tried to keep them as general as I could. We are going to have a few English major specialized videos coming up, but just release your inner Hermione Granger, your Rory Gilmore. If you have other characters that inspire you in any way, Look at them, look what you can learn from them. I wish you a great first day of school and an amazing semester. I'll see you tomorrow with another video of this. Thanks for watching. Keep reading, and when you're not, follow me on all my social media linked down below. Bye!